Dr. Desson?
Yeah.
Good to see you again. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Welcome back to Q-Dads. I'm Steve, and of course, we are covering yet another Apple TV sci-fi show, Dark Matter, starring Joel Edgerton. Let's waste no time and break down this first episode and discuss all things mind-boggling, like why not.
And chocolate chip? Really?
Now, although this series I think needs 2 episodes to touch the surface of what it's capable of, we're only going to be touching on episode 1 today. So don't forget to subscribe, as we'll be breaking down the whole series, including episode 2, in the next few days. The show starts off for a few seconds in some abandoned warehouse with someone walking around. I have a bit of a theory on this towards the end. We then meet our main character, Jason, played by Joel Edgerton. As he wakes up in his family home, he ends up letting his son Charlie drive to school, and as they leave the house, you can actually see the car that later kidnaps him in the background. Jason teaches at college and discusses to a disinterested room about the Schrodinger's cat experiment, which actually gives us an indication of what the series is going to be about. 2 possibilities happening at the same time. After school, Jason then heads to some storage unit, where he records down what happened in his day, whilst messing with some chemical, which we presume is what helps Ryan to win the Pavia Award. Now, we say Jason, as this is what the producers want us to think. However, I think this is more likely to be Jason 2. Yes, I'm using Jason 2 as this is what the show writers are using to refer to him in upcoming episodes. So, this leads to our first question. What is the mysterious chemical? Ryan, played by Jimmy Simpson, is best known for his amazing performance in Westworld, and I don't think this will be the last time we see him. Then, in the next scene, Jason finally joins Ryan to celebrate his success, and Ryan mentions that if it wasn't for Jason's notes, he would not have won the Pavia Award. This is where things get interesting. Jason walks home, but on the way back, he's held up at gunpoint and forced to drive a car across town. Jason does this fearing for his life from the masked man. Interesting here though, is Jason is asked about his phone's passcode being his dad's birthday backwards. Yes, this could be a throwaway line, but for me, is this an indication of how the other Jason's life was? Was his passcode normal and not reversed? Or does it indicate that their timelines were exactly the same and diverted at some point? More on this towards the end. He's then taken to the same warehouse we saw in the start of the episode. The masked man moves Jason through the warehouse and makes him strip to his underwear, which at first I did question, but it makes sense towards the end. Jason is then drugged and left on the floor to pass out. Before he does though, he gets a quick glimpse of some device that flows and is only referred to as a possibility. Jason then wakes up in a room and is greeted by Amanda. A nice detail here is that there is a lot of posters in the background about quantum entanglement. Jason, of course, has no idea where he is, but is told he's been missing for 14 months and 10 days, as well as being the co-founder of a new company. He escapes the facility thanks to a security guard and heads home. He realises this isn't his house with Diana and that both her and Charlie are missing. We see that he has actually won the Pavia Award, meaning he either betrayed Ryan or Ryan helped him to win the award. Saying that though, when asked his whereabouts during the meeting after he wakes up, when he mentioned Ryan's name, they all look a bit unsure. Does Ryan not exist in this timeline? We then end with the not so shocking twist that the man in the mask is in fact another version of Jason and is now seducing Jason 1's wife. Now, on to the theories. Firstly, I'm getting to some massive Constellation vibes here, as we clearly have 2 versions of Jason and 2 possibilities, but there must be some kind of time displacement. As in one world, Ryan won the Pavia and clearly they celebrate this in the bar, but in the other, where Jason has won, he has already fully established a company, meaning there is a several months difference, or a few years tops. And on the back of this, I mentioned at the start about the warehouse. I think this might hold a future significance, as is this the only location that allows someone to cross over? And I say this, otherwise Jason 2 would have just switched with him in the car, or used that device there and then, rather than taking him to the warehouse. Or could there be some form of time manipulation too? Can you only cross realities where a major event happens? And maybe something went down in this warehouse previously in Jason 2's timeline. Also, touching on that device for a moment, what is this? Does this allow them to cross realities by amplifying the space or dark matter around them? Or does it allow for the stability of safe travel? Or is it completely unrelated and is actually more some kind of quantum travel sickness medication? I do think it was pretty obvious from the start, with the man in the mask being Jason from another reality. When he first started saying he knew about Ryan, Charlie and even the passcode, it seemed very obvious that this was Jason. I do think what was more shocking though, was when Jason 1 was in Jason 2's timeline at the end, he wasn't allowed to leave the facility, even though he is a co-founder. Was this purely for his own safety, or is something more sinister at play? And I would still like to know where Ryan fits into all this, as that room went very quiet when his name was mentioned. They also mentioned he was the only one to return. How many more people crossed realities? Have they all done a similar thing? Have they tried to assimilate into their lives in this new universe? Earlier on in the video, I mentioned, is it possible the timelines switch at major events? As maybe we're actually dealing with multiple realities, not just two. I know quantum entanglement is normally between two objects, but if we come away from that for a second, what if there are multiple Jasons, each with a timeline split at a specific event? The fact he was nearly run over by the taxi in both timelines makes me think Jason possibly died in this event. What do you think? And finally, the biggest question of all is why not chocolate chip ice cream? Daniela was so against the flavour, but why? I sort of have an idea. I assume that Daniela in Jason's reality does like it, but this Daniela doesn't. That assumes Daniela even exists at all in the other timeline, as I was surprised Jason didn't try and call Daniela's parents or relatives. Overall, this seems like a promising concept. My question is, are we going to become oversaturated with shows about quantum science? Apple TV have only just come off the back of Constellation, a brilliant show, but a very similar story at the first glance. Thanks for watching, guys. Just so you know, we actually started a second channel called Qtronics, where we look at fixing and modding consoles and other electronics. So if that sounds like something you would find interesting, there'll be a link in the description. Right, let us know in the comments your thoughts. Do you think we have time and reality manipulation? What happened to Jason 2? And will we find out why Mint Choc Chip is the devil? Join us back here in a few days for episode 2. And as always, we'll catch you next time with something new.